Alrighty, so this week we are going to primarily start our next text assignment. I know that you've explored text a little bit from what we've talked about last week, but we'll get into it a little more this week. And I'm going to show you some other things, a couple things that are new in Photoshop with the 2021 version, and some other neat to know things. So let me share my screen here. And I'm going to start off with text, and we're going to talk about typing on a path. By a yay or nay, how many of you have used Adobe Illustrator before? Not a lot of people. So think about a path. A path is what we use in Illustrator to mark the outside of shapes. We use paths to delineate it. We can move them around. And that's something that we can use in Photoshop. So we'll talk about paths tonight. We know that we can create text using the text tool in Photoshop. But what happens if we want to change things around? Let's say we want to type in a circle. Let's make a circle first. Get off of that layer. I'm going to make a circle. And let's say that I want to draw text around this circle. The primary thing to think about in text in Photoshop is you don't want to do your entire brochure layout in Photoshop. Your text, you want to use Adobe Illustrator or Adobe InDesign, because then your text is vector. It's smooth, it doesn't have pixels, and it's readable. Text in Photoshop is not. And so if you have a lot of little lines of text that's in Photoshop, it's going to look crunchy. So the text in Photoshop is, again, for headlines or statements or creative things that you want to do. So what we're going to do is go to our elliptical marquee tool. I want to make sure everybody sees what I'm doing. Is there everybody who cannot see the Photoshop in front of them? Great. So I'm going to make a selection around that sphere. And what I want to do is turn that selection into a path that I can type on. And you have in Photoshop a palette called Paths. And the way you get to that is Window, Paths. And that will open this palette. So with this selection, I am going to click on the callout box and choose Make Work Path. In other words, I'm going to make a path out of that selection. Now, when this box opens, you generally just leave the tolerance alone, 2.0. That's the smallest you can get. And we'll talk about tolerance in a later week, but for right now, just keep it at 2. And you'll see now that the selection you made is now a path. And all those little squares are points that you can draw out and change. You can move it, bring it down. So those are changeable things, but for right now, we just want to keep it like this. Now, when I choose the text tool, choose horizontal type tool, watch what happens to it when I hover over the path. It turns into a text cursor with a wavy line through it. That means I'm on the path. So I'm going to click, and you'll see that it has put placeholder text on there. So if I type around the circle, my text is going to go around that path that I made. And you can see that it's layer 1 type path. Now, how do I move this around? If I click here, and I choose Path Selection Tool, let me try the other tool, excuse me, Direct Selection Tool, and I'll go to Edit, Transform Path, and Rotate. I can move this text around to where I want. Transform Path, Rotate, Edit, Transform Path, Rotate. So now I've got my text that's on a path around my object. Now, you can do it on different paths. If you use your pen tool, and I believe I put a tutorial for the pen tool there, I can create a path by clicking, letting go, clicking, 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 clicking. So now I've created a path with my pen tool, and there's my work path right there. So if I go to my text tool, and I click on the path, again, see it change from a regular icon to a wavy icon. It will follow the path. Now, half the time it'll look goofy because your path is too choppy for text, but you get the idea. You can always come back and change this path. Play around with it. So before I make it any more ugly, I'm going to stop right there with that. And that's typing on a path. You can use it for a circle. You could do it on a square. You could do it on any shape that you want to make, and it will apply text to that. Now, let me show you another aspect of text, which is pretty important. And that is changing it. Let's make this 80. On the text layer, anytime it's in the letter T, that means it's editable text. You can go back and change it. You can add a letter, whatever you want to do. That means it's editable text. However, if I right-click on that and I choose rasterize type, it will turn that into an image. It will no longer be editable text. It will be an image. Now, the benefit of that is now I can change this word using Photoshop into different styles and types. So, for example, if I want to, let's see, edit, transform, skew. I can change the way it looks just by manipulating the skew option. That'll give it depth. Or I can choose warp. Warp will allow me to manipulate it even more. So once you do your text and you like it, then you can rasterize it or change it into an image and start manipulating the size. Any questions on that? Everybody good? Excellent. So last week, remember, we talked about styles. Now that I have the style here, I can apply one of these styles to it. And make it look the way I want. So this is what Photoshop was built for, was taking text and making it a design element rather than lines of readable text. And so that your next project is going to be, you are going to take a word and make the word match what it means. So for example, if I was to use the word clean, I would have the word clean. I would pick a font that's very crisp and sharp. I might make it metallic and have it shiny to represent the word clean. And then what I would do, I would get a background image to support that word. So I might get one of those totally white bathrooms where everything looks pristine and clean. Use that as a background to support the word. Now, what the project is not is to have image portray what the word means and then have the word secondary. I want the word or the type to reflect what the word means. And I will show you some examples. There's some examples in the tutorial, and especially next week we'll get into that. But you can take a look at that tonight. Project 2 link is there. And that's what you'll be doing for project 2. So again, what I don't want is a background picture, a word, throw a style on it and be done. I want you to really be creative in doing this. It can be 2 words. I just want that to be the first thing that hits you when you look at it, is the word. And then the background can support that. Are there any questions on that?
I had a quick question.
Sure.
Are we able to manipulate the type in Illustrator before putting it into Photoshop if we want to do something that we can't just do by like transforming the type in Photoshop?
Bet. You bet. You
Awesome.
can.
Cool.
What you can also do, let me get my layers. What you can do is Control or Command click in the box, and you'll notice that it selects the texts. Then, if you go into Paths, and just like you did with the circle for type, once you create a selection, you can make a work path out of that. Now you'll see something that's similar to Illustrator, as you see that the word is made of paths. So I can use my selection tool start manipulating the letters. If I want to go back to a selection, I go back to paths and I choose make a selection. And then I could fill it with anything that I want. So that's an option for people that know Illustrator a little bit. Not required to know that for this class, but it's an option if you want to do an experiment. All right. So using text to be creative. Let's see which one's better. Okay. Let's say I want to make a postcard. And I want to make a postcard about Jamaica. So I've got a picture of Jamaica. So what I want to do is have the word Jamaica go across the top. So I'm going to go and I'm going to choose my vertical type mask tool. Because what I want to do is fill something in there. Horizontal type tool, excuse me. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to type in Jamaica. Because I'm going to fill it, I want a nice, fat, solid font. Let's make it bigger. Sometimes we can pick a flourishy font or a thin font, but it's hard to fill. So I'll go back here, move it to where I want it. Okay. So now you can see the word Jamaica is selected on this image. So now what I can do is go to my next photo that I've got, which is a Jamaica pattern. And I'm going to select all of this pattern. And then I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go back to this. And I'm going to choose Edit and Paste Special. I'm going to paste it special. And the special way is to paste into. I'm going to paste what I copied from that fabric into the selection that's in this picture. And you can move it around inside. You can also edit, transform, scale, make it bigger to fill the whole thing. Now I want it to stand out a little bit, and this is where our effects come in. I'm going to choose drop shadow. Let's make it a little darker here. Maybe an outer stroke. So let's see. Let's choose a dark green. Take a look here. Opacity is good. Okay, so it's got a dark green stroke around it. And that's what I've done. Any question on that? That's pasting into. So anytime you have a selection, you can paste something into that. Remember, Photoshop is selecting something and then doing something with that selection. And this is an instance of that, making a selection, the word Jamaica, and then pasting inside that word Jamaica.
I just tried doing that, but for some reason I copied the photo in my folder like in my files folder on my computer. And when I
Uh-huh.
went to go paste, the option wasn't available. It was just grayed out.
To paste into,
Yeah.
did you have a selection going?
Yeah.
Okay, let me do it again. So we'll figure it out. All right, this time I'm going to try it differently. Before they created the mask tools, this is the way we had to do it back in the covered wagon days. I would have to type the word, and then I would have to use the magic wand tool and select each letter. Hold down the shift key to select more. So this is what we used to have to do, is do this. Now I've got a selection going. Got the word Jamaica here. So now what I'm going to do is edit, paste special, paste into, because that Jamaican fabric is still in memory. I haven't pasted anything else. So I'm going to choose paste into. There you go.
Where did you have the Jamaica fabric copied from?
I copied that from a website, but I opened it in its own picture in Photoshop.
Oh, that might have been my issue then, because
Yeah.
I didn't open it in Photoshop.
It has to be a photo that's opened in Photoshop so you can select it all and copy it in Photoshop.
Okay, cool.
And
Thank you.
then you can paste it in here. Sure. So that's the old school way of doing it. So if you type it and it's in color, you go, dang it, I didn't want to do that. That's okay. Just select it with the magic wand tool and it'll be just like you use the horizontal text mask tool. Everybody good with that? All right. There's a couple new things in Photoshop. One is neural filters, and this is new. If you haven't upgraded to the 2021 version, do that, and neural filters will show up. And for those of you that want to do a basic correction of photographs, this is for you. I choose neural filters, and I have a picture of somebody open. It has options for skin smoothing or style transfer. Go with skin smoothing. And here, I can turn it on. And it allows me to change the blur or sharpness. It may be hard to see a little bit here, but they're very subtle because they're very quick corrections. Subtle or blur. If you have someone that's got a little bit of spots on the face and you want to smooth them out, you can choose blur. You can also choose smoothness, which smooths skin out. Then you choose whether you're satisfied. You go, no, I'm not. And since this is brand new, they're asking, didn't work or it made it worse. And then you can tell them. Okay. So that's really for basic. We're going to get into photo repair and photo retouching heavily in week 6. But this is just to show you something that's new. And the other thing that's new is style transfer. This is a quick way to change the style of a photograph. It's pretty awesome. What it does is it takes the style and the color palette and everything and applies it to your photograph. You can see more. There's bunch of default ones. To preserve color, focus. All these things are fun to play with. I just, since I downloaded it 2 days ago, just been playing with it. That's a good Halloween one. That's pretty scary. And you're supposed to be able to upload your own image if you want to use it as a style for your photograph. I have to figure out how to do that. Now here's the beta filters, where you can download all of these filters for colorizing, automatic colorizing. It's scary. Photoshop's brain is getting smarter. If you have a crunchy looking JPEG, it'll clean it up. Photo restoration. All these things you can download and apply. Face cleanup, sketch to portrait. This is pretty amazing. So I haven't had time to go through them all, but you may want to do that to experiment and see what they do. It saves a lot of time. So what I'll show you in lesson 6 is, again, the covered wagon way to do it. And this, I'm going to see if it matches the way that we used to do it, if it's as accurate and clean. Okay. That's neural filters. I do not know where they got the name. Another new thing is sky replacement. The way we used to do the sky is I would take my pen tool and I would make a path right along this grass, go around, and then I would select the color range and choose blue, so that all my blue here would be selected. Then what I'd do is I'd go find a sky that I like, I would copy it, and then I would paste into that selection to get a new sky. Let me see if I can do that. Move some of the zoom things around here. Okay, so I'd select all that, and then I would go edit, paste special, paste into, and it would put a new sky in there. And then those clouds are like monster clouds. They're too big for the sky. So I'm going to scale it down a bit. Try and make it look a little more realistic. So that's the way we used to have to do it. Now they have a tool. I'm going to get rid of that sky. Under Edit, Sky Replacement is the new thing for Photoshop. If I choose that, it's going to take a minute and it's going to look at the sky and replace it with a different sky. Now I can adjust the brightness of that sky or make it buried in dark. The temperature, I can make it a cool sky or a warm sky. This is getting scary. Photoshop is getting way too smart. You could change the scale of it, make it bigger, smaller, fade the edge, shift the edge. Where do you want the edge to be? See how it fades? Foreground adjustments. Oh my goodness, there's so many things here to just replace the sky. It's amazing. And you have a choice of lots of skies. So somebody was thinking overtime on this one. And how does Photoshop know where the sky ends and the grass begins? I don't know. It just knows the difference in the pixels and the contrast and everything to figure it out. So that's the new thing, again, in Photoshop is sky replacement. And that's found under Edit, Sky Replacement. Another thing that I'm going to show is content-aware fill. Sometimes you have part of your image that you don't want there, but you don't want to take the time to copy bits of the picture and paste over it and kind of make it look funky, like it's not there. What content-aware fill does is it takes your selection, and what you want to do is make a selection that gives a little bit of breathing room around what you want to replace. Because Photoshop has to look at it and go, all right, so I want to use content, I want to be aware of the content that's surrounding this tree and use that to fill in this tree. So now that I've got that selected, I'm going to go to Edit, Content Aware Fill. And so Photoshop's going to look at that and say, okay, I know it's around that, so I'm going to try and use all those pixels around it to fill it in. You choose Content Aware Fill, and it's going to mask it and show you in the preview window what it's going to look like. Because if you want, you can adjust the mask and all that. But once it's the way you want it, you select OK, and boom, your tree's gone. Is there anybody that doesn't think that's cool? That has saved so many hours for me just doing that. If it is an irregular object, then you can use the lasso tool to go around it. Any selection tool will work for the content-aware fill. And that's that. Now I'm going to give you a preview of a filter that we'll be using in week 6. This is a filter that's been around a while. So if you want to start playing with it now and you've got time, you'll want to play with the Liquify filter. And this is used for making art out of pieces, but it's primarily used for photo composition. And when I choose Liquify, it's going to open this in a new window. And these are the tools for this filter. It's really powerful. The first one is basically a forward warp tool. I can use this and I can use it to go around and reshape this face. Make it a little thinner. Let's say we want her chin to be up a little bit. Bring her forehead down. So that's what we've done with this tool. And if we say, oh, that's out of control, then here, there we go. Say cancel, you can see the difference. Filter, Liquify. One of the things that's new in the last 2 is the face tool. If you click that, it recognizes the eyes, it recognizes the nose, it recognizes the mouth, the face shape, and a lot of other things. So for example, Eyes. If you want the eyes to be bigger, want the eye height to change. And this is left, this is right. What we'll do in week 6 is talk about, and 7, the appropriateness of what we do. Does everybody have to be perfect? No, I hope not. So you could change the tilt of the eye, see how the eye tilts. So after this lesson, you'll all be qualified plastic surgeons. Change the distance between the eyes. Change the nose height, up, down. This is scary stuff, you know. We use a lot in photo retouching. Give her a smile, sullen. She's a teenager, so let's give it. I'm just kidding. Change the upper lip. Now these are subtle things. You can also just change the shape of the face too. Change the width of the face. So that's the Liquify tool. So if you want to get a head start, play it for week 6, feel free. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of weird things that you can do. You can use this to do some swirlies. Make sure I get the. Anyway, you get the idea. You can destroy things pretty well, but it's really a good tool to know if you're going to do a lot of photographs. All right, we've got that one. All right, so let me check the chat box to see if there's any questions. If you want to upload Photoshop, the latest version, you go in Creative Cloud and choose Update. If it says Update next to Photoshop, then click that and it'll update it to the new version. So let's go look at week 4. Share the screen. And this is week 4. So you're going to read and view the tutorials on the text tool, complete assignment 4 for week 4, and start working on project 2. This is the text project, and that will be due in week 6. Here's how to type on a path. Here's some styles that you can download. And here's tutorials on the sky replacement we talked about and the neural filters. Got all these videos, should have enough. Here's a tutorial on using the pen tool in Photoshop if you want to look at that. No discussion this week. Happy Halloween. So our assignment this week is this. Create a canvas 8x10 at 150. Use the text tool and create one of each of the following. Text converted to shape and altered creatively. In other words, take the text, change it by rasterizing it, and then alter it however you want. Text on a path. So we talked about by creating a selection and turning the selection into a path using the paths palette. text with an applied style. We covered that last week, and you can do that with any word. Text with an image placed inside, like we did with the Jamaica postcard. Text removed from a shape or an image. That's if you have a nice scenic and you make a selection and delete the image that's inside the text. So if I were, and I'll show you that in a minute, and rasterize 2 text instances and upload the finished file. So I'll go back to Photoshop. And here, delete that layer mask. And I will delete that. So here I have the word Jamaica. I'm going to select that word. Then I'm going to go down to layer 1, which is this scenic layer, and delete. And so now what I've done is I've deleted that from the picture, and it just creates the effect of having it white. That should be that. All right, any questions on that? If you have some images outstanding to be graded, try and get them in this week. Your realism project, please get it in this week. Appreciate that. If you have any questions, let me know. Some of you have had some questions, and I've either created a video for you or did a one-on-one Zoom. So don't feel that you're on your own. If you ever need help, let me know. I'm happy to help you. That's why I'm here. And that's it for tonight. Not long. And hopefully my internet connection was a lot better. I didn't flake out this time. Does anybody have any questions? Everybody's good?
Yes, thank you.
Is everybody healthy, happy? Have your dog or cat close by, I guess. All right. Well, have a great week, and I will see you next week.
Thank you.
See ya.